All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to March Indy Spotlight. Here with me tonight, we have Logan Stevens. Logan, say hello to everyone.
Hey, how y'all doing? It's nice to be on the very first episode, right?
Yes, sir. Very
Very
first,
first
number one.
episode of Mark's Indie Spotlight. Very blessed, very thankful, very grateful, Mark.
So, Logan, I know who you are, but let's tell the world who is Logan Stevens.
Logan Stevens is simply a independent pro wrestler. I don't know how far you want to go at the moment, but I've been in the business almost 17 years. I'm simply just a outgoing, loving dude. I um I love professional wrestling. I have forever since I was 3 years old. I love my family. I'm a father. I am a husband, a brother, a son. You name it. That's me.
And cheap plug, but also the other half of Exclusive Pro Wrestling Management.
Exactly. One of owner, operator, promoter, booker. Basically, you do it, guy. Of
Yeah,
exclusive
he's a
pro
man of
wrestling.
many hats, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the closest friends that I've had in this business. Um, let's go back into when you first became Logan Stevens. How did that come about?
Well, first of all, the name is actually from as Logan is from my oldest son, Logan. Now I had him in an early age. I chose the name, and then also that's how he became Logan as well. Um, but Stephen or Stevens comes from Stephen, which is my shoot name, which is Stephen McMillan. So that's where that comes from. All the way back, I originally chose the name. I think back in let's see, 2006 is when I officially became Logan Stevens. Now, I know you didn't ask this question, but I started training in 2005. So, but
Yeah, and
that's didn't have
that's
the
another
name yet.
question is that's coming up is by
Yeah.
whom were you trained, and how many months or years of training did you have before you have your first professional match?
Okay, so I originally started training in October of '05 in a place you're very familiar with. SGWA was the name of the promotion, Hazelhurst. Um, that's where I originally started. I went to a show just as an indie fan first time. I don't know how far. I mean, I know you go back pretty far in indie wrestling. There was no social media really at the time, so I found a link to shows in the area I didn't know existed on GeorgiaWrestling.tk or GeorgiaWrestlingNews.tk, which was like the website we all as fans found and went to. Attended a show. They announced that was a Saturday night. They announced training. If you wanted to train, come on that Sunday. Went that very next day, and I was hooked. 140 pound, kid, barely 17 years old. I was 17 years old. Now, yeah, as you know, SGWA shut down back. So yeah, I trained from October. I think they shut down like February the next year, if I remember correctly. And we only trained like once a week at that point. I had kind of like I guess you'll say nothing more than a squash match. I don't really count that. Um, then I was still in high school, so I graduated high school. Then after at high school, got a full time job first. But I'm linked up with Jared Michaels and Brooks Robertson. They were running at the time it was GWA, but they became Southern States Championship Wrestling, so SSCW. And then it wasn't long after that I had my first match and had a run of like I don't know month after month working Brooks and Jared and all their guys that we trained with.
Now, over the course of your career, you have gone by different monikers. Let's talk about the metamorphosis of that because I know you used to be called the Jesus Freak.
Yes, but that wasn't the first one.
That wasn't the first one. So
No.
so let's go through the metamorphosis of that.
Okay, so the original that first I guess you say nickname, and I think that everybody and a lot of people come in when you're a white meat baby face when you first get into the business. I was the rookie sensation, so that was kind of like my first little gimmick name, I guess you will. I mean, there was always a joke I've heard like a Buff Bagwell and all them were rookie of the year like 6 years in a row. So, we all get that little moniker at the beginning. And then there was a time frame where I was just sensational, I guess, or sensation, something like that. That didn't last long. Um, I think I like one or two times may have used spectacular Logan Stevens. Um, I used amplified Logan Stevens a couple times. But the Jesus Freak, that came from the fans knowing me as a youth pastor and being involved in youth ministry and being the church guy and stuff like that. And that just happened organically. Then I started using it. Um, Never technically at first called myself Jesus Freak Logan Stevens. It just kind of just became an organic thing, and then I stuck with it, ran with it for a few years.
Right. So the like basically a fan said it at the show and they started cheering it and it stuck pretty
Yeah,
much.
exactly. I mean,
Gotcha.
kind of how it happened, and I used it because for one, like I said, organically, but to me, a cool moment in the ring is when you know uh, I don't know how much we're gonna, break the fourth wall down a little bit, but be a little break a little kayfabe. But when you're getting your babyface comeback and they're counting, they might not the chant the fans are chanting instead of Logan, 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 they're counting Jesus, saying Jesus free, Jesus free. So therefore Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. So that's being shouted, sometimes 200-300 plus people, and that was a cool moment, being sitting in the middle of the ring and being a Christian myself and Jesus my Savior and sitting there hearing that. And then,
Right.
as you know now, Anointed One, Logan Stevens, also shortened that down because, me and Johnny Romano, tag team partners, TRL, I shortened that down to A1, which is, I noticed a state sauce, but I mean, A1 is also like top notch. So,
Well, wasn't Jesus Freak also like a Toby Mac song or something like that?
yes. Oh, DC Talk, the original song,
Yeah.
that's from like 95, bro. We used to listen to that in Children's Church and
We're, we're showing our
95.
age
Was it
now.
95? It may have been earlier than that. But we used to listen to that in children's church and youth group. So yeah. And then there's a KJ52 remix.
All right. Out of everybody past, present in the business, who would you say that your wrestling style is most similar to?
Ooh, I don't know if I could really pinpoint it to one person, um, and one wrestler or whatnot. I guess you can say that I was trained the Southern style, the old school style,
Right.
the style of the Jim Crockett era. I guess the NWA era, early WCW era. Um, I always felt like, I still feel like to this day, that I can be that workhorse on any card. If you need me to do it, I can do it. If you need me to be baby, of course I'm a baby. That's not 99% of the time that's what I am. But if you need me to
Right.
heal, I can do that. Now I do have the white meat baby face is traditionally what I've always really been, and not saying my wrestling style mimics Sting, but Sting was always my favorite wrestler, and I was involved in a storyline, and I was talking about how I was getting older, which I was only like 28 at the time. But I was talking about how I was getting older, and I kind of want to change up. And I'm like, I'm no longer going to be that 22-year-old white meat babyface no more. And the heel, we were just having a conversation, and he's basically mentoring me. He was like, listen, he said, Ric Flair, or who you consider one of the top heels of all time? I said, Ric Flair. He said, who was one of his top opponents? Who do you love watching wrestle? He said, Sting. He said, you always had to have a Sting. You had to have a Ricky Steamboat. So I guess you say that's always been kind of my little deal. Always selling for the heel. So
Right. So basically Sting was very influential in your style.
yeah, um, I look at it like this, and is my favorite style of actual matches to have is when I go in there and it's of course a baby versus a heel, and either the baby and I'm selling, 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 trying to get the crowd emotionally behind me. I feel the less you do far as bump after bump after bump and killing yourself in the ring, I feel that as long as you can, you make that connection with the crowd, that's my thing that I do. Sell, 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 make a connection with the crowd, get that good big baby face comeback. Then if I'm the heel, of course, you just do that in reverse, where they get the emotions that either when I'm a heel, I'm more of an annoying heel, not necessarily actually a bad guy. I try to aggravate people, which is kind of like my own personality. So, and but
So
then
that
then
happens organically too then, huh?
yeah, happens organically. I'm just me at the end of the day. And see, that's another thing when you talk about who is Logan Stevens. I'm just Stephen McMillan. I'm just turned up, and
Right.
sometimes it's just it ain't got to be turned up. It's just me on a daily basis. That's just how I am. I'm happy most days, even though I do relax, but I'm hyperactive. Try to be a very positive person. But and then also, like I said, as a heel, I know and understand to make that baby face look good, and no matter what I need to do to make sure the match is over and the baby face is over, I do it. So
That's right. Um, out of your entire career, what would you say your favorite match is that you've been a part of?
um, it's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly my favorite. I have favorites. Um, one of and I guess you say favorite matches slash moments. Because like one of my favorite matches is one with Johnny Romano. And I think we're in I can't even remember the name of the town, but it's a small town, it's, of course, Georgia. Um, it may come to me in a minute. And we come up with this just old school style. He was a heel, I was a babyface. Come up with a spot, and just everything just worked really, really well. The whole match went real. It's like mine and his. We wrestled each other 100 times, and it was like mine and his. The only match where there was like everything was almost perfect. I had a match back in 2016 with uh his real name is Wesley. Less fortunate. That's one of my favorite
Right.
matches. It was all I remember it was August. It was like 100, it felt like 185 degrees in a building with no AC, and we went
South Georgia Heat.
all the way through. We went all the way through. I think it was like we did a 15-minute or 20-minute straight all the way through, something like that. And we were just drenched in sweat, exhausted. Now, again, one of my favorite matches, and you were there for this moment as well, is when I won the Southern Junior Heavyweight Championship. That just that moment, the match was the match, and it was a good match. It was a gauntlet match. I stayed in from number one all the way through, and I don't remember exactly how long it lasted. And it was something that between me and the guys involved, we put it together, and everything come off really well. And that moment was the one of the biggest moments of my life, my career. So
Speaking of that gauntlet match, the physicality of it, what sort of toll did that take on you?
for at that time now, physically, I was probably in the best shape, period. Like not even in ring style, in ring or whatever, in ring shape, but period. My the one thing I was worried about, the cardio, and of course
Oh
I
yeah.
had cardio the whole time. I was good. Um, it was a little more because you was there for the matches, so you seen some of the bumps, um, especially from Suplex Assassin Alex Kane. Shout out, boy. Um,
Oh yeah.
he
He was
there was
doing
some
his
stiff bumps
thing
in that
on
match.
MLW.
Yeah, he's doing his thing, man. And the so some of the bumps are pretty stiff. So I mean, all in all, I remember the best thing we say after any match is you ain't actually hurt, like injured. The difference because we all hurt. Like, we hurt on a daily basis. If you're an independent pro wrestler, you don't want to be hurting. So that's gonna happen. So the toll I remember just my lower back the next day was pretty stiff. From taking because I ended up, there was like five of us if I remember correctly, counting myself. So four guys I ended up taking bumps for. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of work. You know,
The physicality of a gauntlet match is pretty. At the end of the night, you definitely felt it. I guarantee it. But at the
yeah,
same time, I guarantee you was on that adrenaline high just from that
yeah.
moment.
I was, and I didn't feel like I was fine. Like I said, then the very next day, that's when because that's when a lot of time it happens with any wrestling, but or any matches. But one thing that was a challenge was um remembering everything. You know what I'm saying? I was in at
Oh
number
yeah.
one, and I had to go all the way through. And I'm a firm believer of calling in a ring, but of course you got to have certain things done. But that was the mental aspect of that is keeping not only keeping everything locked in so you can get to your spots, but also in front of the crowd. Keeping them engaged the whole entire time, and it all come out well. So I'm very proud of that. So
I will compliment you on your ability to work the crowd because I have seen you numerous times, and every time it doesn't matter who you're facing, the crowd is always invested in Logan Stevens.
thank you. That's one of
Um,
my. I believe don't matter if you can do 500 moves, if you can do every move in professional wrestling, if you can't engage with the crowd, you're wasting your time. So that's
yeah, I
my
mean
belief.
that's the reason why fans come to these independent wrestling
Yeah.
shows is they want to be engaged with and interacted with, and at
Hmm.
the end of the night they'll go home talking about the guy that they interacted with
Yeah.
versus the guy that did 400 flips.
Exactly. Exactly.
um where can the fans come to see you?
Um. Well, exclusive pro wrestling. We run mostly, I guess you say, Southwest Georgia, Albany, Georgia. Our next event for exclusive pro wrestling is July 30th in Osceola Church of God. That is a church event. It's an event for my aunt as well that has battling cancer, Aunt Wanda, Wanda Etheridge. We're going to try to raise some money to help her with some medical expenses. Um, there's that also, which I don't actually, I think I took the rest of June off to get prepared for because the next few months is going to be kind of busy. So
Right.
I won't have nothing the rest of this month at the moment unless something pops up. You never know when you get that message or that text, that phone call.
Like, hey
But
brother.
not, yep. Hey bro, how you doing? So but I'll be in Panama City again, Panama City Beach, July 2nd with Freedom Force Wrestling again. Pretty big event going on down there. They got a debut. They're re-debut or debuting in a new building at our school, so it's a pretty big event. Then
Yeah.
coming back in July 16th with Hope Championship Wrestling. And all these places you can find it on Facebook or Instagram. Hope Championship Wrestling, Exclusive Pro Wrestling, um, uh, Freedom Force
Freedom
Wrestling.
Force.
Just type it in, and you can find us all those. And I also work with. I mean, majority of, I guess you say, all Georgia, South Georgia companies, especially. You'll see me pop up on.
He's he's pretty much a staple in South Georgia wrestling.
Try to be. Try to have
Well,
been. I guess I'll say.
I'll put it like this: I've seen numerous flyers with you on them.
I know a guy that made them.
um, yeah, I don't know who that guy may be, but what advice would you give someone looking to become a wrestler?
Um, let's see. First of all, get trained. Don't be, how'd I put this? There's a lot of guys out there that and I'm not trying to be someone, you know me, I'm not someone that really shoots on somebody and stuff like that, but I
Right.
do like to tell the truth. And I don't like the guys that, I ordered wrestling gear, show up at the show and I'm a wrestler. Go get trained. There's plenty of places out there to train with. You can start with someone. Matter of fact, my goal soon, hopefully, is to start up training with exclusive pro wrestling. Not only, I mean, yes, I'll get you started. I'll teach you to do some bumps and some basics, but we're gonna bring in some people to work with that are far advanced than I am, that are more qualified to be a trainer than I am.
Right.
Um, that's my first advice: to get trained, find a good school. And one thing I always tell people is just to be careful because there are a lot of, I guess you say, I don't know how you put it. There's a lot of trainers out there that try to work you. Just be careful who you go to because some of the best have been worked in their time. That in the
Yeah.
end you're just paying them money for nothing.
Yeah, and
Just
then
don't good.
they'll discourage you from being in the business, and
Yeah,
if it's really a dream and you're that passionate about it, you'll stay no matter, even if it's tearing your body apart.
yeah. I mean, there's some great schools, and just because I just want to say this, just because they run a pro wrestling event, um, and they say they do training, doesn't mean they're qualified to actually do it. So, 'cause I've seen some guys that, just put it this way, where they're kind of done wrong. They're just like little, I guess you say, test dummies for some guys to beat up on, stuff like that. So just be careful. And have a full time job or at least a part time job, because yes, wrestling does pay, but also you got to pay out a lot of it. I mean, gear costs a lot, travel costs a lot.
Oh yeah.
Your food is gonna cost a lot. Gym memberships cost a lot. If you're on some sort of a diet, it's gonna cost you money to have proper nutrition. So have some sort of a job, a fallback or something. And also understand there's thousands of us out there. And just because you become a professional wrestler doesn't mean you're automatically going to get signed by WWE or one of the big companies.
All right. My next question is: in the next 5 years, where do you see yourself?
Oh man, I will always say first and foremost, love the opportunity. I think if you do not aspire to work for WWE in professional wrestling, um, that's the biggest company. That's the company that pays the most. That's the company you can have it, make a lot of money and work full time in professional wrestling business. So I would love to see myself in that with the opportunity,
Right.
or one of the bigger companies. Just have an opportunity to be a part of it. But
Right.
other than that, it's still continuing first and foremost building up exclusive pro wrestling to become a staple in indie professional wrestling, to become a staple in professional wrestling business. Period. We got some things that are in the works, hopefully for the future. But I do understand that we got to crawl before we can run, um, or crawl before we can walk, and definitely not run. So, um, also continue to build my name up, in wrestling. Period, and that way, when people still see Logan Stevens on the marquee, that it puts a little bit of motion there, and they want to come see me wrestle, want to come see what I'm doing. I still want to get better. I still train. I want to improve my look, everything, But
Right.
overall, next 5 years is to basically still get better and still grow from where I'm at now to hopefully, And I don't know how many more years I got in this. I'm 34 years old. Injuries, I've never been seriously hurt. I've had some injuries here and there, some broken bones and bruises and all that stuff like that happens. But eventually bump cars don't run out. So basically,
Oh
I
yeah.
want to do what I can while I can before that bump car's gone. So
Yeah, and you know it when it starts to run out, all that arthritis starts setting in, and,
old
and all
Arthur's
that
already
good
there, I think. Yeah. So I mean, but the biggest deal is hope to leave a mark. No pun intended there, Mark. But hope to still leave a
stuff.
mark in some sort of a legacy in this business. Before my boots
Apparently,
are
you're
hung
still
up.
alive, so keep going.
Okay.
It's like- so
Uh,
that's my main goal.
the funny thing about it is yeah, that's my name, Mark. And before getting into behind the scenes stuff with this wrestling stuff, I never knew that a fan was called a Mark.
Yeah.
So learning that, and then I'm like, Mom, why'd you name me this?
Let me
and
change my
then
name.
and then I hear so many other wrestlers use it, and it to me it's funny because that's a common name. Like
Yeah, it
you
really is.
can probably go in every city and there's a Mark there.
Yeah,
The
exactly. So
I wonder what the process on how that became a thing
a,
was,
a
but
mark.
that'd be yeah.
Oh well, I mean, not to go. I love professional wrestling. I love professional wrestling history. If you go back to the beginning days of professional wrestling, and when they started putting what professional wrestling became, you go back to the carnival days and stuff like that. A mark was the person that's getting worked by the crowd. That you're a mark. If you're being, that's the person that that's where it come from. If you're getting work, and it has ties to the carnival, of course, because the carnival is worky as well. And, so when they had those things back in the day where it's the you know if you could take this guy down in 5 minutes, whatever thing you pay your money, you're being
Yeah,
worked,
the
you're a mark.
strongman
So that's where a lot of
contest.
stuff comes from. Yeah, that's where it comes from, and of course I'm not exactly right on the definition and all that stuff like that, but that's basically where it comes from. And it's transitioned over the years to where now you're pretty much a mark if you're a wrestling fan is the way a lot of people like to use it, but it's really a person that's being worked in the long run.
Right.
But
So
um,
I know you're pretty serious and intense when it comes to preparing for your matches. What does a Logan Stevens workout consist of?
right now, my workouts are pretty intense. I had some injuries, so I kind of had to slack off and back off a little bit. Got kind of not necessarily fully out of shape, but got out of shape compared to what I was a few years ago. But right now, they're pretty intense. I've upped my cardio a lot more. I've upped my HIIT workouts, high um, intense and interval training, weightlifting still. I was trying to do a little, get back into lifting heavy, but I don't like to get. Uh, it's basically like this. You reach a point where I feel like I'm not as mobile, so I'm working my way back down to trying to be more mobile. And like right now, like I said, it's intense. I just got done with a 3 mile run, about an hour and a half ago, with some stuff in between that, push ups and things like that. So, and I try to work out at least on minimum 6 times a week. Now I ain't say 6 days a week. I just try to work in at least 6 times a week, get a workout in.
Right.
Sometimes my full time job, family stuff like that takes me away. I mean, I put that first, of course, and then I work out when I can. When it comes to the nutrition part, I pretty much have that locked in. I eat clean most days, but I also have children and stuff like that. So there's always junk food and cereal, and cereal's a weakness of mine. Gummies are a weakness of mine. So I have those two still. Um, yeah, that's just part of it. And but like I said, right now it's pretty intense. One thing I wish I would have done earlier in my career was got in better shape. And one thing I wish I would have done better is now I try to do more stretching and taking better care of my body. Period. Ice baths, Epsom salt baths, stretching, yoga, things of that nature. Um, I wish I would have done that more. Maybe I would have a little less injuries. But I think doing it now is something to be prolong my career, a few more years at least. So that's another thing I want to give advice to young folks getting out in the business. Take care of your body at a young age. Because you're 21 doesn't mean you don't need to take care of your body, because eventually the 30s roll around and it starts telling on you. So, um, yeah.
And I'm gonna apologize right here, but from being backstage with this man at so many indie shows, I will let you in on a little secret. A Logan Stevens pre-match ritual: eat like 4 or 5 bags of gummy bears.
Yeah, just about. Usually one bag before, and then I save the bag, another bag on the way home. Well, that is an, I ain't gonna lie, I love gummy bears, gummy worms, I do, but it also, the glucose and things like that does help with recovery. It also does. Also, you eat that. There's some good things that come from eating that. Just I do overdo it.
Right.
But
It's a
when you're having
strategy.
a 4 and 5 hour ride, sometimes after already working a show and tearing the ring down, putting the ring up, all that good stuff, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're still driving. Gummy bears, stuff like that come in handy to help stay awake. That's
Trust
always
me,
been like,
I know what me and you setting up so many and and
yeah.
tearing them down, and you still working the show and all. It's wild.
Speaking of us, so that again, and that pay your dues, show up, help out, help put the ring up, help or stay and help tear the ring down, put out chairs, learn what you can. Because if you also have eventually, like I said, the bump car is going to run out, and there's going to be no more in the ring stuff. But you want to be involved in the wrestling business some kind of way. There is a business side of the business. Learn what you can. I mean, I've learned from some good people some things, what to do and some things not to do. So get
Yep.
there. Always, I've been in this business, like I said, almost 17 years or something like that, and I will show up and at least help put the ring up, stay late, help take the ring down. Every show, I always help out. You know, of course, when we run shows, in the order, when we do ring rentals and things of that nature, that's happening, of course, then. But other people's shows, I always try my best to help out as much as possible.
Right.
So,
And we've got compliments before about we appreciate you and your men and the things you do, because
mhm.
at the end of the day, be professional. Like, don't never be
Mhm.
too big for this business,
Yeah,
because if you keep giving to this business, eventually it will give back.
yeah,
I've
it
been an
does.
independent wrestling fan for 19 years now,
Yeah,
and I've got to meet some great people throughout the
yeah,
times. And speaking of, you were talking about SGWA. That was my very first independent wrestling experience,
yeah.
and so,
You know,
y- like,
my very
that
first
was
actual independent wrestling show I ever seen is, and I later learned that our mentor, our grandfather, rest in peace, Mr. Jerry Stevens, he's the one that ran it. But it was in Fitzgerald, Georgia, in what at the time was still the Walmart parking lot, I believe. Now it's the Tractor Supply parking lot, or Farmers Furniture, something like. Anyway, the old parking lot there. They set up a ring in the middle of the parking lot, had a tent for locker room, free show, And I remember it was cold. It was a cold time here because we were in Jackson all, and that was my first like this is wrestling I'm seeing it in person. And I remember
Right.
still that moment sticks out to my day in my mind to this day. Also, that was the first time that I seen how the business was at work because I seen some kayfabe get broke. I didn't notice what that was at the time, but I did. I seen some of that stuff because you can look over and there's a tent right there and you see everybody there. So and I figured
Yeah.
out that's when I really like the light bulb went off. Like, oh, okay, but
Yeah,
still, moment in my life.
and that moment of seeing it live in person versus watching it on TV, it's surreal.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget going, and these guys were what most guys consider nowadays they were nobodies, but
Yeah,
at the time they were larger than life because hey, they're wrestlers.
yeah. Even if we because there's a few of the guys that worked in the car on the car that night. They were from Fitzgerald and the surrounding areas, and you knew them as their real person. But then once you see them as a wrestler, like they're a star to you. You know,
Right, they had that
and
much more cool factor.
yeah, like that guy's a professional wrestler. That's awesome. So yeah, that's definitely true. But I never forget it, and and so I just love this business. I love professional wrestling. I uh I keep myself almost surrounded with it constantly. I I watch stuff. I watch every independent promotion just about I can find on YouTube. Of course, the major companies as well. I keep up with those. I listen to podcasts constantly. I've read books. I say I love the history of professional wrestling. I love hearing stories about what professional wrestling was back in the teens and 20s and 30s and how awesome
Yeah,
and
back before
it
they had
was.
ropes.
Yeah, yeah, when it was a whole different time and hearing the stories of how big crowds would be even during the depression days and of course I love seeing that the business of course has evolved and it's going to continue. But there's some good things and bad things about it, but I still love this business. Always have and always will.
Yeah, and
It's
one
that
thing over
wrestling
the
bug.
years that I
Do what?
found is that, and one thing over the years that I found is that wrestling's universal. It brings people from different walks of life,
Yes,
different, different
belief,
cultural
everything.
beliefs, and everything. That everybody just comes together because hey, it's a
Yeah.
wrestling show, and we love this.
hmm I have seen. I mean, I've seen everything. I guess say every person from every walk of life not only attend a wrestling show, but also in the locker room, our brotherhood, our brothers and sisters and stuff like that involved in the business.
Oh yeah,
From every walk of life. And it's amazing to me that I don't think wrestling a lot of times publicly gets enough of that recognition of how impactful it is in society and how it brings people together. And even if it's only for 2.5, maybe 3 hours, but for those time frames, you know, people
the
they forget
camaraderie.
about what's going on and they're in the moment and they're all together and all it is a bunch of brothers and sisters of the business or all it is a bunch of fans there to enjoy and become friends, enjoy a professional wrestling show. Through this business I have met and so many friends, acquaintances, brothers, sisters, and lifelong friends that I'll always be important to me. And I owe a lot of that to professional wrestling. And I've seen some amazing things. I've seen kids, fall in love with professional wrestling, um, cry because of emotions. They're so overwhelmed with their heroes and stuff like that. Um, through Christ, I've seen people come to Christ at wrestling events through church shows we've done and ministry shows we've done, which is a big
That's what
passion of
the
mine as
Hope
well.
Championship Wrestling that you. I remember you
Yeah.
telling me a story about that.
Matter of fact, one of the forgot real quick time. I don't want to ramble on too much, but the very first show I actually ever ran was not far from where I'm sitting at now, and I jogged through there earlier and remembered it. Ran we had like a small little fall festival type deal, and we ran a wrestling show as part of it. And I remember three teenagers. One of them was like 15, 13, something like that. All came to Christ that night. That was the very first show I ever ran. And so I said, seen some awesome moments. And one of those kids, he denounced suicide at that time. And came to Christ. So like I said, awesome moments. And yes, Christ, but through Christ, through professional wrestling, whatever, professional wrestling is to me an amazing thing, an amazing product. So.
And that's the reason why we do what we do because we share a passion for it.
Mhm. Exactly.
and like you
So,
were mentioning Jerry Stevens earlier, that man taught me so many things that I had kind of an idea about, but he clarified
hmm
so much for me and led me in directions that pushed me to the potential to do what it is that I do.
yeah, Jerry, a lot of people think he's my legit grandpa because of Stevens. But even though Logan Stevens, is not legit, Jerry Stevens was his real name, and actually they're not even spelled the same. But a lot
Right.
of people do thought he was my legit grandpa, but I called him grandpa. He's grandpa in my eyes anyway. Um,
Oh yeah. He
learned a
definitely
lot,
took on
learned a
that
lot
role.
from him. Do it, yeah.
Yeah.
I always say he's my wrestling grandpa. I got wrestling grandpas and wrestling dads and wrestling brothers and all that stuff. So, um,
And whether he was getting on to you or he was singing your praises, you had no
yeah,
choice but to be like, "Yes, sir," and
yes, sir.
respect him.
Yes, sir. I learned one thing I did learn is you got on the phone with him, you're gonna be on the phone for at least 20, 30 minutes because he's gonna tell 15 stories.
Oh yeah.
No matter what the conversation started with. So I learned how to tell stories and all, but one thing I can say this too, Mr. Jerry, and I know from wrestling side we learned a lot. But I mean, as a man, because he will tell about the mistakes that he made as a young younger adult and stuff like that, and
Oh
give
yeah.
advice and things like that. And that's one thing because he was who he was, and he was a good man, but he also knew what he came from, and he never denied it. But he
Exactly.
also knew what he became in his older years. And I think the legacy of Jerry Stevens is he's someone that wanted to give anybody that wanted to be in this business an opportunity, and he gave them a platform to showcase their talent, whether they were good in the ring or not, whether they belonged in the ring or not. Honestly, but if someone wanted an opportunity, he would give them a shot and allow them to get in his ring. So that to me, I think,
If they believed in themselves enough to ask for that opportunity, he was happy enough to oblige.
yes, and that to me that's his legacy still to this day. That that I will always remember it. I mean, I know that time goes on, we'll all be forgotten about eventually, but me, you, and quite a few other of us in
Countless
this business
others.
that had opportunity that he gave graced us with opportunity to get our name out there, he'll always be, memorized by us, And
Right.
tough that, been a year since he passed and it's been tough. I'm his memorial show was a tough day, tough night. Um, but we'll still keep his name and his memory alive through exclusive pro
That
wrestling as
that was definitely the hardest speech I ever had to give.
well. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I've done when I was 16 years old. I performed hip hop in front of a couple hundred people, and not a problem. But that
yeah,
speech choked
yeah,
me up like a newborn baby.
yeah. So and but yeah, man, and but like I said, in the end, to this business is very important to me, and I don't think a lot of people understand it. Um, my wife is not a was is I guess you could call her a wrestling fan now. She's more of like I support you, and that's it. Um, she says sometimes I just don't understand it. She don't, and sometimes even my oldest son Logan, he'll be 16 this year. Even some things like that, I just don't get it, but I understand because he's an athlete and stuff like that himself. He understands wanting to be involved in something. So, a lot of people don't understand it, and a lot of people say you got to be crazy to be in this business. You either crazy and you get in this business, or the business has made you crazy. I think in the end, we're all a little crazy being in this business. Period.
Oh yeah.
You know. So, but I love it, dude. I love it, and I've loved. Um, I don't have. I can't say. I can't. I honestly can't say I have any regrets in my career because I think I've learned from everything, good or bad, that's happened. And I owe a lot of memories of my children, a lot of memories with my family to professional wrestling. So
Well, Logan, I think that's gonna about wrap us up.
yes, sir.
There anything else you want to say to the fans before we call it a wrap?
Um, look up Logan Stevens on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, also YouTube, um, exclusive pro wrestling. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram. Also, Wrestle Bible. That's a ministry, and I think I hear my wife and children pulling up right now, so I think it's a good time
Perfect
for
timing.
y'all hear a loud 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old running around. But look us up, and I just want to say to all the fans, thank you because you've given me memories as well, and I'm very blessed to be a part of this business and blessed to be a part of so many people's lives. Thank you again, Mark. Thank you for having me, and be blessed, my bro.
Always, brother, always. Ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude the very first episode of Mark's Indie Spotlight. Thank you.